love the music we chose, Blake Boyd. Thank you for picking our theme song for the hour. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Deborah.
Absolutely. In studio with me right now is a friend of mine. His name is Blake Boyd. You probably recognize him. He's been on all sorts of shows, from ER to Shameless to The Agency. But right now you're on to talk about one of your latest ventures. Mm-hmm. And gee, I wonder why they selected you for this. You play JFK. You've been playing that role at the Odyssey Theater here in Los Angeles. The Death and Life of Mary Jo Kopechne. That's an incredible play. Mm-hmm. And you are phenomenal in it. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. A lot of people, when you hear the name Mary Jo Kopechne, it's such an uncommon name.
You know what it is.
You know exactly what it means.
You know I don't care if you were born then, if you weren't. You know exactly what the play is. But what's interesting about this play is the point of view of the play. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Peter Leafcourt wrote a play about the terrible incident at Chappaquiddick in July of 1969 when Senator Ted Kennedy was leaving a party with a young girl in his car, and her name was Mary Jo Kopechne.
28 years old she was.
They drove off a bridge accidentally. She drowned. He got out. And essentially that incident is what kept Senator Kennedy from ever becoming president.
Absolutely.
And also pretty much put a nail in Camelot. Camelot was over. This magical time of Kennedy power and prestige.
Yes, because a lot of people were saying, see, I told you. And there was all sorts of stuff that had leaked out about Jack Kennedy, but, you know, the press at that time had kept it quiet. Yeah. And then, of course, he died in such a horrible way, so you can't really continue talking about stuff. And then RFK, look what happened there. And then Teddy was left. And, of course, the first son died in the war. Yeah. So, my God, that mother, Rose
Kennedy,
she's been through.
She had 9 children, and 3 died tragically or murdered. Actually, 4. One of the daughters, I think it was, I can't remember which one it was. Catherine died in a plane crash in Europe. And so, but anyway, back to Mary Jo Kopechne. Peter Leafcourt wrote this play, and he wanted to give her a voice. Because, and we talk about it in the play, she's been somewhat of a footnote in history, a answer to a trivia question. And she was arguably the first Me Too victim in modern society.
Yeah, I mean, a woman with no voice, a woman with, you know her by name, but you don't know her story. You don't know about her family. Yeah. You don't know how did she feel when it happened, what happened, what really transpired. And in this play, these characters become alive.
Well, now, the play begins, as you know, with Ted Kennedy coming into a hotel room in Martha's Vineyard, and he's dripping wet. There's been a terrible accident, and shortly thereafter, JFK, Bobby show up.
Who were dead at the time. But they appear in the play.
It's magic surrealism.
To talk to him.
It's as though Teddy is having a dream about all this. But as several of my writer friends have said that have seen the play, it's very well written in that it all seems logical, it all seems reasonable, and it sort of fills in the blank as to why events would play out the way that they would. For example, Jack tells Teddy later in the play, I think he should go on television. Sympathy always works. Tell them that you offer to resign or stay on as senator. They'll support you. I guarantee it. That's exactly what Teddy did. He went on television. He offered to resign or stay on, and the people of Massachusetts supported him overwhelmingly. Well, Jack gave him that advice because television worked so well for him in 1960 when he debated Nixon. So if you're watching the play, and I've talked to several people that said this, and you've said the same thing, it makes sense why Jack would tell him that.
Almost to the point where you don't even realize that you're watching Jack Kennedy speaking to Ted, but Jack Kennedy wasn't really there. You really wonder, geez, did this happen in his head where he would think, what would my brother do? Yeah. You're right about that. Yeah. It's so real. You get so lost in the moment in the play. Yeah, well, I do love your accent from a boy from Texas. Right?
When they cast me,
how did you pull that off?
Well, I don't know. When they cast me, Michael Donovan has cast me in a few plays, and when they call me in, because I'd played Bobby before in another play about Marilyn Monroe.
Got all ooh.
But it was a much smaller role, and I did okay. They told me, and so in this one, I was like, I'm a country boy from Texas. I can't play John Kennedy.
Do me a little John Kennedy.
Well,
would you?
I'll
Give
do
me
it.
a
I'll do it in
line.
a second. Teddy, I could have been a better president. Sure, Congress fought me tooth and nail on everything, especially civil rights. I'll bet you Lyndon got that bill through. Am I right? That son of a bitch didn't give me any credit, did he? I broke ground on that bill, Teddy. I would have gotten it done sooner or later. That comes from a point in the play where
Gives me
he's saying,
chills.
because he didn't know what happened. He got murdered in Dallas. He had no idea all the things that happened after his death. There's another point in the play, and Peter Leafcourt did a great job writing this, and Terry Hanauer directed it and constructed it beautifully, where all this is going down. What a lot of people don't know is Chappaquiddick happened the day before the lunar landing, which, by the way, was a vision that John Kennedy had in 1960.
Absolutely.
Put a man on the moon and return him to Earth safely. That's a famous quote. Before the end of the decade. And by God, July 1969, they did it.
But the night before.
But the night before. And they've done a really good job. Terry Hanauer there's a lot of projection, as you know, and different video images, and the news will break through with the footage of what's going on at Chappaquiddick.
I love how they did that.
Juxtaposed
Beautiful.
with the lunar landing. And so, anyway, I forgot what your question was, but they were hoping that the lunar landing would knock Chappaquiddick off the front pages.
Of course.
But it didn't, because, it was just too big of a story.
It's also sad what happened with her family. There was never an autopsy performed because, the magic of the Kennedys and the terrible grief that her parents had been going through. And I know that that was talked about as well in the play.
Well, excuse me, you have to go back to what was going on in 1969
A lot.
in Boston. A lot was going on. In 68, we lost Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, to murder. Marilyn Monroe.
She had died before that. Didn't
No,
she?
she died in 68.
She did?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh.
Who was in the White House? Richard Nixon was in the White House. And so there was a belief amongst a lot of people, not just in Democratic politics, but that we've got to preserve the Kennedy legacy to win in 1972. So in the play, Bobby and I are working on Teddy to try to get him ready to run in 72. That was the objective. And the rationale behind it was, Nixon thinks bombing Cambodia is the only way to win the war. So we have to lie, we have to cheat, we have to do whatever it takes to get you out of trouble here. It's an argument of are the ends justified by the means, or do the means justify the ends?
Do you think he really tried to save her? I mean, there's always debate about that, and people say, oh, he just swam away. I don't think he just swam away. I think he tried to do what he could. Look, clearly I wasn't there. But how do you just swim away? Probably tried to do whatever he could and then panicked and thought, oh, God, now what? I've been enough of a disgrace in this family, and now what? I'm just going to sit here and wonder what to do. I sometimes don't know if he's the biggest villain that so many people painted him out to be.
Well, I don't think that, by all accounts, whatever political viewpoint one has, Ted Kennedy left a mark, a legislative mark, and he did care about the people he represented.
He did,
had
and
a
that's
lot of
very
friends
clear.
on both sides of the aisle. I've met him on a few occasions. I spent time with him. I don't know him. I didn't know him by any means, but he was.
But you can get a vibe from somebody.
Yeah, you get a vibe. He's a nice guy. He was just a nice guy, and he, I don't
clearly
know.
loved the women, like all the men in that family.
Yeah,
Good God, did they have a lot of testosterone? Every one of them.
Yeah, started with Joe.
Senior, you mean
Joe
Dad?
Senior, the father.
Dad, yeah.
But I personally believe that it happened. He was scared. He was drunk, and he swam. It was in the Edgerton Channel, and that channel was the water
currents
flow,
were
the
strong.
currents were strong. Yeah.
So basically,
He tried, and he couldn't get her out, and so he walked back to his hotel room, and then he panicked, and he said, well, I've got to call Joey Gargan. I've got to call all these people.
Usually
it's not my phone.
Usually my phone is off. Continue.
It's not mine. I don't mind it as long as it's not my
Nice
phone.
ringtone. But anyway, so go ahead. We were right in the middle of... Okay, so the car goes off over the bridge.
The car goes off the bridge, and I think
Strong currents.
Strong currents. I think he went down to try to save her, and he got out, obviously, and then he went back to the hotel and said, this is bad. I can't save her. She's probably already dead. And he got on the phone to call the people.
Because the thinking is that there was an air pocket in the car for quite some time.
What adds to the tragedy of the story is there was most likely an air pocket, according to the sheriff diver that went down there and got her out the next morning, and that she could have survived. So,
God, what a miserable death.
Yeah. But we have a wonderful cast. We've gotten some very good reviews. We've had a very good run at the Odyssey.
May I read one of the reviews? I love
sure
this.
Can.
Blake Boyd is especially good as Jack. I can't do a Boston accent, but I could do a mean English accent. He plays JFK with a devil-may-care twinkle in his eye. Kind of looks the part, gee, you think. And it's probably the best at captivating the essence and persona of the real-life person being portrayed. That's nice. That's from Hollywood Progressive. Stage Raw writes, as Jack Kennedy, Blake Boyd has an infectious charm. You were fantastic in this play. And I've seen you in other works.
Thank you.
Joanne Mosconi's wonderful play. You love that I'm not your wife, right?
Yeah.
You like that I'm not your wife. That's terrific. But you really you're a chameleon. You can really morph into whatever it is. Look, all actors can do that.
Well, thank you.
But especially in this, I really, really felt like I was watching the President of the United States.
Well, thank you. That's
is that tough to do? Like, you sit there at home and look in the mirror. How do you become Jack Kennedy?
What you do when they cast me, one of the things that I do is I tend to trust whoever I'm working with, and because it's in their vested interest for me to do well, and they have no reason to say, "Oh, great, babe, you're just wonderful. You're wonderful, babe." No, they're going to tell me the truth. And the rehearsal process was difficult at times because, it's a lot of words. I go on stage and I'm on stage for about 45 minutes with no break.
I do not know how people
I don't know how I've
done,
and I've never had a role that big. I've been in plays that were 2.5 hours where I had 5 scenes or so, but I'd have a break. I'd be on stage for 5 or 10 minutes and have a break, and that's one thing. But you just work and work and work, and you do the best you can. To your point about how do you play the president? Well, first of all, he didn't feel good about himself. So if
physically and
emotionally, and he wouldn't. This is John Kennedy. John Kennedy would not have treated women the way he treated them if he felt good about himself. He wouldn't have treated his wife the way he did if he felt good about himself. I'm not judging the man. I'm just looking at the behavior and what I've read about him, and saying that when they came to interview him. They were going to do a book on him his first year in the White House, 1961. Now, this was after the Bay of Pigs disaster and some other failures. He said, why in the world would anyone want to do a book on the first year of my presidency?
Can you go through the dialogue that you do in the play about his failures, where he feels like a failure? I hate putting you on the spot like that. No, but it was very moving.
Thank you. I cheated on Jackie every chance I could get. She deserved better. When we lost the baby, all she said was, "We'll try again, Jack." 2 days later, I was in Palm Springs with some starlet whose name I don't even remember. It was an addiction. I couldn't stay away. With all my physical problems, it wasn't easy. A whiff of perfume, a smile, a tight skirt. I went after it. Only a couple of them had said no. But, Teddy, when you're President of the United States, they don't say no. Wasn't just women, Teddy. I got everything handed to me. Dad bought me the House seat in 46. He paid Jim Curley not to run again. that PT 109 thing. He turned it into a hero story. Got the book published, convinced Warner Brothers to make the movie. Truth is, I should have gotten a court-martial instead of a medal. I had the boat in the wrong place. That's why we got shot up by the Japanese. I misread the damn radar.
Why did people believe in them so much? And why did they want to? Were we that desperate in this country where we had to have somebody that we believed in?
I think so, and that's a very good point. In society, we want heroes. Your previous guest, Norm, who I've known for many years, is a hero to his daughter.
Yeah.
She needs it. His wife needs it. He's a wonderful man. He was talking about this book that he wrote that I'm going to buy, and I'm going to buy several copies and give to friends. Think about where we were coming from. It was, World War II ended in 1945, and we were rebuilding, and we were rebuilding Europe. Horrible atrocities in Europe that occurred during World War II and in the Pacific. And so I think in the 50s and the 60s, we wanted heroes. We wanted people we could believe in. And here comes this very attractive young president, 46 years old. Or no, I think he's 44 when he was elected. Beautiful wife who was in her early 30s.
Such a classic, beautiful woman.
And,
smart.
And they had vision. They had dreams. And they weren't afraid to talk about them. And so, and also, too, if you are killed in your prime, you're immortalized as that. You're immortalized with those attributes at the time. Same thing with James Dean, Marilyn Monroe.
Isn't
Bobby
it the
Kennedy.
truth? Imagine, sadly, Marilyn Monroe's life was cut so short. But imagine if she was alive today. I guess she'd be in her 80s.
Yeah, or 90s.
And they'd all be 90s, and they'd all be looking at her going, "Ugh, God, look at her." Kind of like Bridget Bardot, she's God, was she gorgeous. And I recently saw a picture of her, and I just thought, oh my, I hope people are kind, because it's so cruel what they do when you get older. So you're right. They were immortalized. The entire family, starting with the first son, the second son as president, the third, brutal murder. It's unbelievable. So I guess it was all like the early tabloids, if you will.
Well, Joe Kennedy was a brilliant marketer. He owned a studio at one point, and that's all true about the PT 109 thing. Kennedy had the boat in the wrong place. Now, he was heroic in saving the part of his crew that wasn't killed. Mm-hmm. So there was, in every, I hate saying the word lie, but in every lie there is some truth. There has to be. So Joe Kennedy was very good. Notice how there's so many photographs and video images of his family, young, through all parts of their life. He was very smart about getting this footage and using it. And if you'll notice when he's always doing press conferences in Europe, he's always talking and he's smiling like that.
He is. How did he know how to do that?
Well,
even before television. Now, we all know about TV and the debates and Kennedy versus Nixon back then. But this is kind of before all that time. How did Joe know to do all that?
Well, he knew
Brilliant
that the
guy.
still photograph, he had to communicate because they were asking him questions. Verbally, he had to answer the European press.
Right, and the way
But
to
he
do
also knew that when he was talking, they were also going to be taking pictures of him. So if you get a still photograph, which is going to be more usable than the video imagery at the time. Now video is much more prevalent than
He was quite the
still.
selfie guy.
But he knew marketing. And so to answer your question of how special were they were really just normal people that were deeply flawed. And this play shows their flaws. John's, Teddy's, Papa Joe, and even Bobby to a large degree, who was pretty ethical. But, Bobby's trying to get his brother essentially.
Pretty ethical, but he liked the girls too.
You think so? I don't know.
Do I think so?
I don't know about Bobby.
Okay, I wasn't there.
Well,
but I'm just saying, I've read
He would have
enough.
liked you.
He may have. He's kind of cute. But actually, I liked John Kennedy. I knew his son, too, which was... oof.
His son John showed up at my 25th birthday party, and I
In
knew
New York?
here in L.A., and he was dating a friend of my ex-girlfriend's, and he was a very nice guy, very handsome guy.
He was a wonderful guy. He loved poetry. And a little bit about John Jr., he loved to sit at Fiorello's Cafe in New York and read his poetry. And everybody'd say, he's just looking for a little attention. I said, no, that's just how he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't particularly care for the press, although he learned how to use it. I loved his magazine, and it got all kinds of flack. And I thought it was brilliant how he used the celebrity with politics. He also called out his uncles. Remember, cousins rather, calling them bad boys, and he got a lot of flack.
Oh yeah,
he
I
was
remember
a great
that.
guy.
Yeah.
Next, you're going to play him next, probably.
Well, we'll see.
Why?
We'll
Why
see.
not? I mean, you're just going down the whole family. But also, this play is going to be picked up later on, probably next year,
Hopefully,
in another theater in Los Angeles.
It looks like we'll get a bigger run at a larger theater, which it's not official yet, but based on the team and based on the reviews and based on the run that we've had, it looks like we're going to have another run later. And so,
what I love about this play is it's a little bit of a different take on what may have happened in the death and life of this young girl. And politics aside as well, I may say. It's just a point of view from what may have happened and what may have been going on in the mind of Ted Kennedy.
well, there's so much that we don't know. And the Kopechne family was paid, according to different sources, about $140,000.
That might sound like a lot of
resolve it.
money in '69, but I don't think it was a lot of money in '69. I mean, wasn't a chump change, but
Yeah.
but even when John Kennedy Jr.'s wife and sister died in that plane crash, it was quickly the funeral
Resolved.
was immediate, quickly resolved, and that was it. And I think these people just have no time to think, and the Kennedy power. It was just so powerful that they just resigned themselves and kind of gave into it.
Yeah.
You know, did you go ahead?
Well, the thing about it, what's great is in our play, as you know,
Look at you there in that picture. I love it.
where there.
With Jack as Jack. My
The,
God, if you don't embody him, it's incredible.
Well, thank you.
Does it feel very powerful to be president of the United States
Well,
for 2 hours a night?
Yeah, and they used to call me Mr. President, and I didn't understand why, but okay. But think about it. If you're
You've got that aura to
but
you.
thank you. I come from
But
a
you're
family
nice to
and-
women. I do know that.
Well,
You're
thank
very
you.
polite.
Thank you. My grandfather was one of Lyndon Johnson's original supporters in Texas, and he was Sam Rayburn's campaign manager. So I've grown up in that environment. But I
That's
think
right.
that at the end of the day, when people ask me that question, and they were saying, "Gosh, you're doing well as president," I'm like, okay.
Oh, maybe
whatever."
I'll just run for office
Well,
one
but-
day and keep this thing going.
They, if you think about it, they're just people. We put all this on them. Well, actually, the United States Constitution puts it on them.
Right.
And that's where it comes from. But they're really, at the end of the day, just people. Everyone from Thomas Jefferson to Bill Clinton to Richard Nixon to John F. Kennedy, whoever.
Do you notice so many of them, though? The women. The appetite for the women. It's almost like they release themselves figuratively and literally with the women. And
Yeah.
there was not a lot of respect for women. And as you said, probably because they didn't have much respect for themselves.
But the thing about in our play, Peter Leafcourt's, in his magic surrealism of the play, Mary Jo gets to decide whether she's going to be found in the car or not. And we're trying to get her to be found somewhere else. Yeah, she's going to die. She is dead. But
Right.
we have some power over what we do in death, is Peter Leafcourt's point of view in this surreal world that he's got. And Mary Jo Kopechne, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but Mary Jo decides she's going to be found in the car. She says, you know what, I don't mind being an answer to a trivia question. I don't mind being a footnote in history. I don't mind the rumors of what may or may not be said about me. I'm going to hold you accountable, Senator and Mr. President.
And I'm going to be
and
on your
Attorney General.
back.
And I'm going to be your
For the
cross to
rest-
bear for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
and so
true.
the hero in our play is Mary Jo Kopechne.
Right. I mean, perhaps she was sent to make sure that he doesn't become president.
And an argument could be made that Ted Kennedy spent the next 50 years of a distinguished legislative career
Very.
Living up to this charge that this young woman gave him. I don't know.
Very, 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 very interesting. Interesting perspective. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
When you go home at night, though, we only have a few minutes. But when you go home at night from the play, is it hard to let it go? No, I'm serious. Not just hey,
Yeah.
I'm the president, but just it's such an intense play.
Yeah, it's
It's got to
usually
be really hard. I don't know how you guys go home and just
Well,
leave it there.
I found myself, it's you sort of naturally, my body kind of shifts. I go to bed later and I get up later. So I
Right.
might be up till 3 and get up at 10, but your body shifts so that at 8 o'clock it places because the curtain's going to go up whether you're ready or not. And, a nice cigar on my deck, relaxing, looking at social media is a nice way to relax after the play. But, we train to be able to do it and then get out of it and then move on.
You've done theater, film, television. Do you have a preference? I'm going to take a guess, but let me hear what you have
Well,
to say.
as there's a great quote, and our mutual friend Joanne Moscone reminded me of this. Movies make you famous, television makes you rich, but theater makes you good. And the people that can do theater
Are
night
good.
in and night out, because there's no net. There's no net. I mean, you have to go. And if you make a mistake, which we all do, flub a line or miss a line or somebody else does, you've got to cover for them. And in television and film, which are great and they're fun and they're challenging and all that, you just go
Cut.
back to one, or not even cut. They'll just say back to one, and everybody goes back to one, and you do it again, and then the editors cut it all together. And
Wait,
so,
what's that there? What's that picture that we've got up there?
Oh, that's a film Donald Martin wrote a film
Doesn't even
called.
look like you.
Well, it's looking a little darker. Donald Martin wrote a film called Toto about his husband's journey to come to America, and I played the moral center of that film.
Oh, interesting.
And I shot in Asia
That's recent.
a couple of years ago. We won the LA Comedy Festival. We won the New York Asian American Film Festival. We were in the Rome Independent Film Festival. And so check out Toto. I think you can get it on Amazon right now.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful
Thank
body
you.
of work.
Thank you.
I just so appreciate you coming in here. What else can you tell us about that you've been up to?
Well, I
So
shot.
once this play now finishing up,
Well,
now
will.
what?
Well, I will. Fortunately, I have a really great management team right now that's keeping me quite busy, and so I'm had a couple interviews already this week, and it's really I think the best part about doing theater is the camaraderie and the experience of working with people and with my cast and with Terry Hanauer and Peter Leafcourt and Raquel Lehrman with theater planners is the support and the camaraderie and the environment.
Great environment
So then,
of people.
but then when you get the call to go up for something else, you're ready to go because you're functioning on all cylinders. I tell actor friends, it's like when you go to the ER, you don't want an ER doctor treating you that's been working, 1 out of 5 days, for the past 3 months. You want somebody that's doing it all the time and ready to go, when you go in. So that's my analogy. I don't know if it works.
Yeah,
for
but
everyone,
also with all the Netflix programming out there. I have a lot of friends who are actors, and on any given day, including my assistant who's not here today because she's going on a Netflix audition, there seemed to be so much programming going on
Last
over there. I
night-
would think for an actor's life,
Yeah.
there's a lot more that it's opened up, right?
The last one, I taped something last night at 5 for a Netflix show, and it's 2 episodes, and it's a great show, and I can't talk about it, but
Ooh, we'll have you back to
well,
talk
if I
about
book it, if I book it, well, yeah, absolutely.
Are you listening? I would book this man. Thank you so much for being here,
Thank you,
Jack
Deborah.
Kennedy.
It's always a pleasure.
I really, really appreciate it. You were so fantastic. I would tell people to go see it, but on the next round, when it comes
Yeah.
back to a larger platform here in Los Angeles, it was really, truly one of my favorite pieces of theater here.
Thank you.
The Death and Life of Mary Jo Kopechne. Blake Boyd, fantastic actor, good friend. Perhaps someday he's going to be starring in the play that I'm writing, right?
I'd love
and
to.
Joanne and I have been working on that
I'd
as
love
well.
to.
Very, very
It's a great
interesting.
story.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. Thanks for being here. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, Deborah. I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, and thanks for being here for another. Oh, my magazine. Thank you, Kurt. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting about myself. I'm talking about everybody else. Please pick up the August edition of The Eden Magazine. It's an online magazine. It's an international magazine. There are many, many millions of readers. This has a very, very large readership, and they did an expose on me under women empowerment. And a little bit about, I should have somebody come in here one day and interview me because, I've been on CNN and Fox and all over the place. After my third kid, I took some time off. So they were talking to me about that and about getting back in the business and saying, no, I don't really want to work in network anymore. I'm just going to design my own thing, in which case I started podcasting. So talks about that. talks about some philanthropic stuff I do about my husband. So pick it up, The Eden magazine online, theeden.com. You can find it on my Facebook page as well, or at deborahkobylt.com. Thank you, Kurt, for reminding me. And we will see you here next time. Bye-bye.